Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now in the final week of November of 2024, and so far it has been a terrible month for the entire Hollywood bubble, for the film industry, for the media. Everything involved over there has a lot to do with the fact of what took place the past two and a half weeks or so. We have a lot of actors, actresses, writers, directors, producers really beginning to lose their minds, and we're witnessing this over a period of time that's just going to keep on stretching out. Now, what's interesting here has a lot more to do with those out there like Robert De Niro, who never seems to have a filter, has no boundaries, and it's only making matters worse for his sake behind the scenes. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, there has been this grudge, no pun intended, happening currently between both Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, which, by the way, was all started by De Niro. We touched on this a couple of days ago, and there's a lot more to the story involving The Tonight Show. Now, what's interesting about this is that we know that De Niro is getting deeply offended by a lot of actors and or actresses that hold differing opinions on their politics, and it just goes to show you how fragile some of these actors truly are, where they will cut people off just because they hold a different political opinion, or quite frankly, just a different opinion in general, and that's how the Hollywood bubble typically behaves. Now, what's interesting about this is that we know that Sylvester Stallone is playing the bigger man. In fact, he's not playing the bigger man. I mean, he genuinely is one that is a respectful person toward not just his customer base, but to the general public, and to those that actually take the time to go ahead and watch his material, whether it's Tulsa King on Paramount, or The Family Stallone, or his past films like Rocky and Rambo movies. But this is where matters get even worse when it comes down to Robert De Niro. Now, with the entire film industry and the media now in shambles for valid reasons, one monumental development that is now active involves more to do with Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, yet again. In the midst of all the Hollywood drama that's been going on the past 2 weeks, it turns out that Robert De Niro has been having tons of issues with Sylvester Stallone after he came forward with his political endorsement that went viral around the world, to the point where De Niro refused to even go on the Jimmy Fallon show as a guest host with Sylvester Stallone, side by side, all because of his politics. Now, but what makes matters even worse is that it turns out that Fallon and his writers created a comedy bit that was going to involve the two movies that both De Niro and Stallone did together in the past, which was Grudge Match and Copland. This comedy bit was going to be a trivia piece sketched over with some comedy elements about the two films. De Niro absolutely refused and even informed the NBC executives, and of course Stallone's agent and manager, and even Stallone personally, that he never wants to talk about or even address any films that he did with Sylvester Stallone again. Stallone reportedly was the bigger man in this situation, where regardless of his knowledge about De Niro's political stance, he still wanted to do the comedy bit with De Niro and their talking points about their political differences on television. De Niro still refused, and it even got to a point where both De Niro, his agent and manager, were arguing with the NBC executives to get rid of the comedy bit altogether. Now, by the way, this was all directed towards Sylvester Stallone. Stallone was very well aware about what De Niro was saying. However, the NBC executives disagreed with that approach, unless De Niro was going to step down from the interview and serving as a host to talk about politics and movie trivia, or films that he did with Stallone in person. What's even worse for De Niro's case is that he did decide to bail out of the Tonight Show special episode, and Mike Tyson is now taking over for that slot to sit next to Sylvester Stallone by this December. It turns out that De Niro is specifically requesting all future late-night shows, podcasts, radio shows, or even those like Sirius XM and among others, to never mention or even bring up the films that he did with Stallone, and never wants to hear those films, Copland and Grudge Match, again. De Niro reportedly took things very personally after Stallone was very public about his politics in recent weeks, and De Niro believes that he lost a valuable star that he once respected. De Niro also made requests before he bailed out of The Tonight Show that he did not want to shake Stallone's hand, and he was planned to come on stage after Stallone. This was the beginning of all the drama. This was the spark to the fire that took place behind the scenes at NBC, just days after Stallone brought up his politics. The fact that De Niro is now requesting all types of media that will will have him on as a guest to keep those notes, and how his agent and manager will actually constantly bring it up to never discuss Copland and Grudge Match again, is a living example of just how baked in politics are into De Niro's mind at this point in his life, that is, of course, dividing connections in the industry at a large scale for Robert De Niro. Now, here's the other thing about this, is that we know that The Tonight Show is one show in particular that I'm not a big fan of, by the way. Ever since Jimmy Fallon took over, I think it was better with Jay Leno. I think Jay Leno should have stayed for longer than he should have, but at the end of the day, when you look at Jimmy Kimmel and when you look at Jimmy Fallon, and I know I made this comparison a couple of days ago, but Jimmy Fallon is nowhere near as, bad as Jimmy Kimmel. There's no comparison at all. Now, when you look at Fallon, he was going to have this fun trivia piece that was going to touch on, facts about the movies Copland and facts about the movie Grudge Match. It was going to be a very interesting bit, I think, for both De Niro and Sylvester Stallone to kind of have this little reunion on stage talking about these two movies that they were both in, alright, the two bigger movies that they both starred in. They weren't really big success movies, but when you look at these movies in particular, right, Robert De Niro wants nothing to do with them. He never wants to mention them again. He doesn't want to hear about them again. And he made that, and he said that very much directly towards Sylvester Stallone and his team, his agent and manager, that was the main reason why he also wanted to bail out of that interview for The Tonight Show. And that really just goes to show you how much De Niro gets so offended over someone's political opinion or just a different opinion in general. And the fact, and I talked about this too, the fact that Sylvester Stallone still wanted to do the bit, still wanted to do the interview with Robert De Niro, regardless of their differences. It just goes to show you the character differences between these two actors, between these two people, right? So Sylvester Stallone just does not care about that, and that's what makes them very different. He's a genuine guy, he cares about the work that he does, the people that watch his work, whether it's television now, or whether it's, his movies that he's done before. And I would love to see him do another movie again, that would be as iconic as Rocky or something, but he is up there in age, let's be real. But Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone, you have to admit there's no comparison between the two when it comes to how passionate they are about their work ethic, and how they communicate with their fans. It is a night and day difference, right? I think that we could all agree with that right now, universally. Now, what's interesting about this yet again is that The Tonight Show is saying, all right, we'll have Mike Tyson come on board instead of Robert De Niro because we want to kind of have that little boxing type of theme going on for that episode. Now, like I said before, they want to get this thing out there by mid-December or late December, the latest, right around the holiday season. So overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about De Niro's behavior, his attitude towards Sylvester Stallone, and how he said that directly to Stallone and his team, that he never wants to hear about those movies again, and that also goes for all talk shows out there. So if you guys would like to drop a comment below in the comments section, let me know what you have to say about that, and I will catch you guys later.